We just came back from Davos, and I think the main message was globalization is over. What it means that we are heading towards sovereignty, whether it's for a government, but also for the users. And this is where blockchain adds a lot of value. The reality is that hackers have started to capture all of our encrypted data anyway, and they will be able to decrypt it later on. So they have already this information. In this machine economy, we are the bottleneck. So we want to enable our devices, whether physical or digital, to start transacting and communicating with each other in a permissionless way, where they can actually, with authority, take those decisions and act on our behalf.
Hello, welcome back to Odys Podcast. My name is Aneta Samkov, and we're meeting at Consensus in Hong Kong. And my guest today is Jonathan Llamas, who's a Chief Product and Strategy Officer at Sealcoin. Thank you so much for coming, Jonathan.
Thank you, Aneta, for having us.
Thank you. I'm very excited for the conversation because I never had a guest before speaking about machines making economic decisions.
Yes.
Very timely topic. So for people outside of crypto and IoT, how would you explain what the machine-to-machine economy means and why is it so important nowadays?
Our DNA started with SealSQ, which is a publicly listed company on the NASDAQ. Mm-hmm. And what does this company does? Actually, I have a machine here with me, so people can actually see and understand what it means. We produce microchips, semiconductors, to protect machines. Our largest clients are the Ciscos of the world.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so what do they buy as a product is this microprocessor that will protect the machine. And that's a physical hardware.
Yeah.
Okay. What's important is that on another division within the group, we're also capable of issuing identities. Okay? So you have the physical part and the identities. We can actually inject the identity inside the silicon of the machine. Okay? So that's a first aspect of what we call a machine. Okay? And how we integrate security and trust in it. And Sealcoin, of course, we want to make sure that then it will go, and we'll see in the other question how we go to the digital environment. But what's important is that the same way we can inject the identity of the object inside the silicon, we can actually, using almost the same technology, inject a wallet inside the silicon. And that changes everything because your first question was about machine economy.
Yes.
If you want machines to start transacting with one another and participate into this economy, it's very important that they have a means of payment. So they can authenticate themselves with their identity and they can start participating into the economy, having a means of payment and a way to settle those transactions. And this is what we bring, and this is how we bring this ecosystem together.
So what fundamentally changes when AI starts making economic decisions, not just analyzing data?
AI is very interesting for us because we're not an AI company, but we foster and enable AI agent and the AI and physical AI and the agent economy to thrive. Why? It's because I just explained how we can secure a physical device with an identity and with a settlement layer. So they can actually start transacting with one another. Everyone thinks that AI will help us to gain autonomy, us or our devices. And that's a great point, but it won't happen.
Okay.
Not that way. We need the right infrastructure to enable those AI services, whether they are agents or just enablers, to be secure. And the same way we can actually secure a machine, giving them an identity, we need to make sure that our AI agents will belong to us. So we will also deliver to each of these agents an identity for them to be authenticated into the network, but also for them to be accountable. What happens when an AI agent starts to go rogue? Or start to do something that I didn't want to, and it's my agent.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that not only we can make sure that we can pinpoint this specific AI agent with its identity, but also go back the value chain with a decentralized environment, making sure that the owner of this device can be accountable for what it does.
Yeah. So how do you see AI agents evolving to handle increasingly complex interactions and decisions?
So as AI agents become more and more powerful and smarter, we need to make sure, as I just said, that they are accountable for what they'll be doing and that they can authenticate themselves. But today, without this trust or this trusted infrastructure, they can only help us to take decisions.
Yeah.
What we want them to do is for them to start acting on our behalf.
Yes.
And for that to happen, again, we need this trust layer. And in this agent economy, also a bit of our culture will have to adjust to it, because today we want to be in full control. We have developed a platform and an environment where you can actually delegate your control to the machine safely. So that's the first point. But we need to understand that in this machine economy, we are the bottlenecks. So we want to enable our devices, whether physical or digital, to start transacting and communicating with each other in a permissionless way, where they can actually, with authority, take those decisions and act on our behalf. And it requires this trusted environment.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the roadblock here? What's the hardest to solve today? Like, is it design logic, incentive, design, or trust in order for AI agents, full market participants?
For us, trust is the fundamental that will enable everything else to happen, because the business logic, everything else can be given only if you have trust. And this is where we want to solve this trust issue in having this mix between physical and digital environment. And to that mix, actually, and that's something we can mention, whether it is for your identity or whether it is for your secure element in the microchips, we have already designed post-quantum algorithms. Because it's important that not only we provide a secure environment and secure infrastructure, but this infrastructure needs to last for at least the next 25, 30 years. Yeah. So if we're not building all that foundations on something which is unavoidable, which is the quantum computing will arrive, some start to say that it will arrive in 2 years. Vitalik Buterin said there's 20% chance that by 2028, a crypto wallet will be at risk.
Oh,
okay. Wow. And even if it's not 2 years, it might be 5 years, it might be a bit later. But the reality is that hackers have started to capture all of our encrypted data anyway, and they will be able to decrypt it later on. So they have already this information, those sensitive information, and we need to make sure that from now on, and this is why governments and the financial industry is already starting to align with those post-quantum cryptography and protection at the core infrastructure. And again, those are adding blocks, making sure that the infrastructure layer that we have not only is secure, but will also last and will enable all those new use cases. There are plenty of use cases that we cannot figure out yet, because AI agent is just at the beginning. And their growth is exponential in terms of capabilities, in terms of autonomy. So we just want to make sure that whatever the level of improvement that will bring, we will most probably change paradigm. And this paradigm will start with an infrastructure which is designed for that. And this is what we have crafted. We just came back from Davos, where we had very good and very interesting conversation on a few panels. And I think the main message was globalization is over. And that's a strong message. And we did not realize that until that it was just in front of us. And what it means that if globalization is over, that means that we are heading towards sovereignty, whether it's for government, but also for the users. And this is where blockchain adds a lot of value. And again, you need to be able to provide this sovereignty. You need to verticalize this value chain and make sure that you can combine a lot of different expertise, technologies together, And this is not that straightforward. So I think size might be too big of a size might be an issue. Too small is also another issue. And I think we've managed to be now at the right size level where we can actually integrate and verticalize that.
Could you actually walk us through a real world example, like how silicon enables machines to autonomously negotiate and execute payments?
So beyond the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is designed to be able to securely onboard devices. Any type of devices. Can be your phone, it can be your lamps, it can be your solar panel, your smart meter, your electric vehicle. It can be many different assets. And as I showed, the devices most of the time will have a secure element. Maybe we can also abstract the physical secure element into an eSIM or a SIM card. There are many ways to go around those physical components. The one thing that will make sure that every object still holds is their identity. So those machines can be anything. We will securely onboard them. And you will be able to control them physically from your wallet. Because again, we inject the wallet at the heart of the secure element, at the heart of the silicon, but then the wallet becomes a secure remote control of your device. And that means a couple of things. I won't go into too much detail on how it works, but a simple use case is, let's say you have a solar panel. Okay, the solar panel is registered on the Silicon platform, and you're the rightful owner of this solar panel. You did the registration. You could prove that you had control over the solar panel. And I did the same with my electric vehicle. Okay. Now what can happen without me instructing or without me going to the website and actually purchasing the cheapest energy I can find around, my car will be instructed from me and by me to be able to, whenever there is a low level of battery, to purchase the energy straight from neighboring solar panels. And it might be yours. And your solar panel will be also instructed from you eventually to say that I only need 80% of my consumption. Most of the time, the 20% are either lost or I need to sell it back to the grid, and the grid is not paying me a lot to do that. So the alternative in that case would be that you sell the excess of energy to your neighbor's car. The neighbors get it cheap. You get a premium out of that. And that's a deal done.
That's really cool.
So that's an easy example. We have plenty. Maybe one example that because we're now at Consensus, and during this window of Consensus, we're organizing a space drop. Okay. Space drop. It's like commonly used as an airdrop, where we distribute rights to get our token when we go TGE very soon. And here, the machine we're talking about is a satellite. We've launched with the company, so there is a dedicated entity within the group, which is about to be publicly listed on the Nasdaq in Q2 this year. We already made the announcement of acquiring a SPAC on the Nasdaq back in November last year for that. And what we did is that we integrated silicon technology into the satellite. What it means that now the satellite can start selling communication network services to any remote devices each time the satellite goes over. And to concretely understand the use case, what we're doing with this space drop is that each time the satellite will come above Hong Kong, and I can show you actually, if you go to silicon.ai webpage, you can actually see here a satellite, the map of the world with all of our satellites.
Oh, wow.
You can go around, and each time it will go above Hong Kong. You can actually take a screenshot. You can actually click on the satellite. You get the exact latitude and longitude, the velocity of the satellite, and you can claim something. Of course, the airdrop is a game, but I think it shows how we can actually start connecting with remote devices using a decentralized environment and making sure that the satellite will be able to settle this transaction on chain. And that changes everything. So those are the very easy example to understand and to illustrate what we can do with a secure infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. Because trust is key here. Machine-led payments sound really abstract to most people at this point. So actually, how does combining blockchain with post-quantum cryptography help to make machine-to-machine transactions something that businesses can rely on?
I think, and that was the point with the first wave of tokenization. I think when we started with blockchain, everyone was trying to tokenize everything. And in that tokenization approach, we believe that tokenizing value would bring value on chain. But I think we missed the point of tokenizing trust, because without having trust embedded into this tokenization environment, what's the token worth? You don't know, because trust is outside of the on-chain environment of the blockchain, and most of the time it remains with the custodians. It remains with the data oracles, which are most of the time, 99% of the time, off-chain. It remains with the devices, which again are not on-chain. So again, back to my verticalization of the value chain, of the trusted value chain for digital environment, it has to start from the physical environment. What it means, and again, post-quantum algorithm is just to make sure that we will last the long run for what is unavoidable now. But what it means, once you have integrated the whole value chain, it means that the data will be signed by the device straight on chain without any human intervention. That means that I don't need to go to a specific brand and to request a data that has been eventually manipulated by the brand, or I need to trust that brand or that company to provide me the data. Here, I can make sure that the device is secure, the device is authenticated, and its data and its services are all signed securely by the device itself. There's no manipulation available. And this is where, again, we bridge the physical environment to the digital infrastructure.
I see. So what new business models become possible when payments are embedded directly into devices?
I would say almost anything is possible now, because we evolve in an environment where devices used to communicate together. Hardly sometimes, because we had some interoperability issues from a brand to another brand, but now this is being solved. But we're still talking about simple communication from a machine to another machine. And now what it means that within this secure communication layer from machine to machine, you can start transacting with one another. What it means that any device becomes a buyer or a seller of services or data. Let's say on my solar panel, let's go back to this easy example. My solar panel also captures the temperature or the humidity. Okay. Eventually, the weather forecast company doesn't want to have to purchase weather stations and plug them everywhere in the city, because there are plenty already of devices, but they cannot access those devices, or even though they could access them, they cannot purchase anything from them. The idea here is that my solar panel can participate to several marketplaces. We understand the energy marketplace, but we also plug that to the data marketplace inside the platform for the weather forecast company to make a bid, an offer on the temperature, for them not to have to deploy anything, not to have to deploy IoT to maintain IoT devices, which is very costly, which is time demanding, and anything else. So
they can simply buy this data.
They can simply buy the data. And again, they don't even have to ask you permission for that.
Wow.
You can actually set a price for which you're happy to sell the data for. Of course, you're still in control, but the machine will have authority, security, and this transaction layer to settle the transaction and the money will come straight into your bank account. You can design the level of autonomy you want to give this device, of course. I still remember that we need to prove a lot of things before it is being used fully autonomously. It will take a bit of time. From a cultural point of view, obviously, I remember again when we were on internet, at the beginning, no one wanted to put its credit card online. Now, no one thinks about it because it's secure and it has proven its security. It will be the same with autonomous devices and with transaction embedded into the IoT devices. At first, eventually you want to validate the transaction before it arrives. So you will receive a notification on your wallet because the wallet is a remote of the device. And you will say, okay, I approve or I reject this transaction. Maybe for a certain threshold amount, you want again to prove things and to keep in control. But for this type of data, we're talking about what? 1 cent eventually that you can generate every day without doing anything for this small piece of data that you will sell from your solar panel. Maybe that can be automated. And we are, again, the bottleneck in this machine economy environment. So let them execute what we entrusted them and securely provide them with.
So what do you think, what's the biggest thing people misunderstand today about autonomous transaction systems?
I think that the largest misunderstanding is autonomous is given. I think that's the wrong assumption. If we want to have autonomous machines, we need first a secure and a safe environment. Otherwise, autonomy won't be given. I won't trust any devices that act on my behalf if I cannot ensure that it belongs to me. So digital ownership, this is what blockchain brings. And if those devices are not accountable for what they will be executing. And again, having a secure framework where you can register them safely, authenticate them safely, and understand who is transacting with what, I think is the basis requirement to get them start playing. And then they can start playing. Playing will mean that they will gain more and more autonomy. And I'm sure those big AI companies will surprise us with a lot of advanced capabilities that we cannot even tell today, but they need such an infrastructure. And again, it's called a machine economy. You need to have access to payment. And today, machines don't really have access to payment, at least not that way. And this is what cryptocurrency can bring.
So the bottom line is that without trust, autonomous devices will never happen.
Yes, I'm convinced of that. And without trust, I wouldn't feel confident in giving my agents, my device, a role in this machine economy. The worst that can happen is that my devices do not represent me the way I want. And not go rogue, but get corrupted from the external world and then do something that it was not meant to do. So security is the first layer and accountability is the second layer. Autonomy needs to come with transactionability or settlement layer, the financial power that cryptocurrency will give them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing so many insights from the forefront of this field. And if you are interested in learning more, follow Jonathan on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and subscribe to our podcast.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anita, for having me.